we're going to be doing a flamingo, and I'm going to break it down in 4 simple steps. All right, so let's go. The first thing we are going to do is we are going to make an oval at the center of our page, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And I'm going to bring this down a little bit. This will be where our feathers are going to go, and I'm going to leave this part open. Next thing we are going to do is make an S, and we're going to connect this S to the top part of our opened oval. So I'm going to go up here a little bit. And I'm going to start making that S. Next thing we are going to do is make a small oval at the top of our S. Just like that. Then what we're going to do is create a line, and we're going to have this line at an angle and connect it to the small oval. So we're going to go just like this. Okay. Now that we got the basics down for here, we're going to start shaping it up a little bit. So the first thing I want to do is erase the line up here. Okay. And I want to erase a little bit of the line from the small oval. We want to leave an opening. Now, if you made your S too wide or not wide enough, no need to worry. We are going to reshape this. So now I'm going to connect. And I think I'm making this one a little too wide, so I'm going to soften this up. And then I'm actually going to connect just like that. And then this will become the connection to down here. Then we're going to go ahead and erase all these lines. And I want to make them a little bit bigger, so when you like the shape, you can stop there. And I'm just lightly going over my lines. Okay, so the next thing we want to do, we're going to use the line for our beak as our center point. Okay. And then what we're going to do is come around it and then come down at an angle there. And then we're going to erase this here. And I might want to bring this down a little bit more. Reshaping. Okay, so I'm going to erase some lines here. And then I'm going to erase the line on top. And then what we're going to do is have this come down a little bit like a scoop. And then we're going to create our eye right here. And then even out the head. Flamingos have fairly large beaks, so we want to make sure it's long enough, but not too long. Okay. There we go. So the next thing we want to do is create our legs. So I'm just going to make an upside down triangle. And then we're going to go down. And then I'm going to do another angle here. And this one, we're going to go straight. So they have these little, they remind me of knuckles. And then we are going to create our feet, and they are kind of like web feet. So we're going to do 3 points and then a curve in here. So we're going to do another one there, right there, and then do a half circle. Now that we got the basic shape down for a flamingo, we can start with our watercolors. Before you move on, if you want to make any adjustments to the shape of your flamingo, I recommend that you do this now. Give him a little bit more shape. And if you have pressed harder in any spots, I recommend just lightly going over this with your eraser, especially if you don't plan on outlining in the end, because that part will be totally optional. I'm also going to erase the line between the flamingo body and the triangles we made for the legs. Okay, let's get started on to our next step. All right, I've got a level 4 round brush. Okay, and the first thing that we are going to do is apply a wash. The colors that I'm going to be working with are neon orange and neon pink. And right now I'm using my brush instead of a spritzer to get these colors onto a plate to mix them. I like to use glass, it's easy cleanup. So what I'm going to do is add in some neon orange here. Get a nice good amount on there. Clean my brush, go in for that hot pink, neon pink, and start creating my shade. Now that we have done that, I'm going to let that sit aside, and we're going to do a technique that is called wet on wet. So the first thing we're going to do is apply a wash, and to do that we are going to wet our brush, and we are going to start wetting it on the flamingo body. Excuse me, staying in the lines, not going on the beak or the eye. And again, we're going to do this on the whole body here. And you want it to be nice and shiny. You don't want it to be dripping. And if you apply too much, that's okay. You could just wipe it off with a paper towel. And if it dries, by the time you're ready, you can add a little bit more. All right, now that we've done that, I'm going in for the color that we just mixed, and I'm going to start applying that. I'm not covering everything because I like to leave some highlights. Okay, we are going to let this dry before we move on to the body part. And we're going to hop over to our beak and we are going to do the same thing. Now this time, I'm only going to go halfway up. So, because we'll be using black, but we don't want to cover the whole beak in black. So we're only going to go halfway with this. Wet the brush, wet the paper first. Okay. If you have a little bleed, don't worry about it. Pro tip, I like to use Q-tips. We'll let that dry before we go in any further with that. I'm going to go back and take that color that we mixed, and I am going to bring this down on our leg. Okay, we're going to let these parts dry, and then we'll move on to the next steps of layering. See you there. Welcome back. Let's start the next step. I'm going to build off the color that we made earlier. We're just going to make it a little bit richer and deeper. So I'm going to add a little bit more. Okay. Now that I got that going, we're going to add a little bit more water. And we'll start here on the body. Right now I'm going along the edges here. Since I had a little bit of a bleed here, I'm just fixing the spot and I'm doing it wet on dry to avoid further bleeds, and I really want to get the rich color. So if you have some bleeds going on, don't panic. And if you don't, that's fantastic. And right now what we're going to do is just start building these colors. We don't want to cover everything and oversaturate it because we want to make sure we're leaving enough room for some highlights. We want to give our painting a little bit of depth. Now what I'm doing is adding a little bit of water so I can stretch out this paint and give it a more loose feel. And what I'm going to do is start feathering. I'm adding a little bit more neon pink to my orange on the top in areas where I want it to be a little bit darker and a little bit brighter. Okay, we are going to let this dry, and I'm going to go back down and add a darker shade. I'm really liking the colors and how this is coming together. Now, as I'm going in and adding all these little shades here, my paper is still already wet, so I didn't feel the need to continue to add more water. But if you find that yours is drying and it needs a little bit more water, then go ahead and do that at this time. I'm going to go in here now and add a little bit of our pink. On our beak here. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go in and add another layer of black to our beak. And I'm going to use a smaller brush. I'm going to use a round level 2. I am working with the Grabie watercolors and brushes, and I gotta tell you guys, I really do love them. They're fantastic. They come in a great little case here, and you get all these colors. I find the pigmentation to be amazing, very rich. So if you're on the fence about trying them, I say go for it. So because I had a little bit of a bleed earlier, I did wet on dry. I don't want to cause an overbleed, especially since that's wet with those beautiful colors. So we're going to let that go, and when it's completely dry, we'll go in, we'll start adding more details. All right, well, I will see you there. Welcome back. We're ready to hit up stage 4. We're going to do some last layering and a little final details and complete our project. All right, so I'm going to go back to the round 4 that I was using, still using the same colors. I am going to go back in and add another layer of shadows. And I recommend doing this wet on wet. And then what I'm going to do is start feathering. I'm going to add some up here. And added some feathering right there. Okay, so while that's drying, I'm just going to add in some fun background. I'm going to go green with it. Going green, baby. Sky's the limit here. Feel free to explore your creative powerhouse and do something completely different, or do exactly what I'm doing. Whatever excites you. And I'm just going in uh, all different directions. I'm leaving some white, as you can see. I love doing loose watercolors. It's one of my favorite things. So right now what I'm using is olive green, and I use yellow ochre and dark green. For this section. Right now I'm going into the olive green, and I'm applying this wet on dry. Okay, so what we're going to do is clean your brush, and as long as your flamingo is dry up here, I am going to take a black outliner pen. Right now on hand, I am using 0.4, and it is by Master's Touch. Now I have to be a little bit careful. I'm going to flip mine around because mine's still a little wet, and you can do it when it's a little wet. That's perfectly fine. Just got to be careful. And then we're going to do 2 circles and then the pupil in the middle. Okay. So the next thing I am going to do is outline my beak. And we're going to do that here. And then in the middle, we're going to create a line about halfway, the angle, and bring it all the way down. And then I'm going to create a line here and a little bit right there. Just adding some details in here. And then I'm going to outline the leg here. So if you want to outline, you can outline. If you want to skip this step, you are more than welcome to. but I'm going to end up outlining ours. So if you decide you don't want to outline, just erase the pencil marks whenever you're done, if you have any left. I'm just going to flip this around here, and I'm going to start up here. Okay. Okay, I just like to do a light outline, but you, like I said, feel free to venture off if you want to and add more. You're always more than welcome. So what we're going to do next is take our smaller brush that we were using before, level 2 round, and I'm going to take a little bit of this orange yellow, and I'm doing wet on dry, and I'm going to apply this to the outer ring of the eye. And you know what? Let's go add in a little bit of that yellow down here. I'm liking this. Okay. Now, before we wrap this up, I think I'm going to add in one more layer, make it a little bit darker. So let's do it. So I'm going to do wet on dry for this final touch. And I want to add a little bit more orange. And a little bit more feathering. I'm going to add just a little bit more up here. And a little bit darker around the eye. And then I'm going to go back in and use indigo blue, excuse me, which is what I used before. And I'm going to add some darker, I'm going to add some shadows here. And I'm doing this by applying wet on dry. And I think that's it. I'm happy with how it looks. I like the colors. I think we'll stop there. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. Have a blessed day.